Hello everybody. We are going to fly the Caudron Rafale C 430, also known as the 431. One of my favorites. I love vintage and I love the golden era. Probably as much as I do any of the new planes. I just like the looks of them. I like the way they were built. I like the way they were flown. And this design in particular was amazing to me back in the early 30s of how it performed and how it performs. Very well done. They did a good job on the modeling, I think. It's got some cracks and chips and fingerprints, which, you know, makes it look cool. Just not all waxy and shiny. Made back in 1933, I believe, in France. And I'm not much on giving out numbers, specifications, but I'm going to with this plane because of the way it was made and how it was made. Of course, it's only 2 crew, and the wingspan is amazing, 25 feet. That's just amazing to me. 6 foot tall. Gross weight was 1,808 pounds. Pretty cool. Fuel capacity was big, 42 US gallons. And it has a Renault 6.3 liter air-cooled inverted inline, which is kind of neat. And the propellers was a 2-bladed Ratier, and it was a 2-position variable pitch adjustable in flight, so you could actually adjust that prop. That was pretty cool. Maximum speed 190 miles an hour, which amazes me when you think that this plane was a type of touring type plane. That's pretty good. 190, that's flying around the early Mooney days. Cruise speed 160, not bad. Range 620 miles. She'll climb up to about 18,000 feet, and the landing speed is about 60. And that's what I use when I land it. It's right around 60, 61. So, yeah, pretty impressive. These gauges are European style. Of course, they are steam gauges, would be. But you can make them out. You can understand what they do. They're old, but they all do the same basic function that we have nowadays for steam gauges. Not much on this dash that moves around, clicks or turns or buttons. You do have movement of the throttle and the mixture, of course, and the magnetos and the starter, but other than that, yeah, it's just a pretty generic dashboard. Not a whole lot to do. You can slide the canopy back and forth. That's pretty cool. And that looks like an awful long ways down there, doesn't it? But it's really not. The plane takes off really easy. There was no wind this particular flight, but yeah, it takes off pretty good. And you have to be careful with it. It's got narrow landing wheels, landing gear, kind of like the Messerschmitt 109. So you got to come in with both of those wheels hitting this about the same time. And of course, the tail wheel is a tail skid. So once you plant that skid down, she's pretty much down and not going to go all crazy on you. And of course, I took off from De Gaulle Airport in France. Hey, you got to fly around the Eiffel Tower, right? I mean, who hasn't flown around the Eiffel Tower yet? I'm sure that was done back in the day quite a bit. But again, I like the lines on this plane. I like the lines on all the earlier vintage planes, whether they were monotype or whether they were biplanes. The earlier twin engine transport planes. I just like that style. I like that look. And this particular one, it just flies really nice. It's not squirrely like you would think it would be with a 25-foot wingspan. But I think that's, it does have maneuverability just because of that. So you'll be able to tell here in just a second how maneuverable the plane is. And again, does it very well, does it very smooth. There we go. That was about as a general roll as you can do. Wasn't all wishy-washy. A lot of the planes, the smaller aerobatics planes, you really got to dial in your joystick to get it to perform smoothly on the aerobatics. This particular plane here, I did some stalls. The stalls are pretty much right on the numbers. It brakes clean with power off and flaps. She will drop the left wing on you, but it recovers pretty much by itself. Just let the nose drop, and of course you've got the power cut back. Just gently bring the power back in and she comes right back up. So I was pretty impressed with the stalling characteristics of the plane. So yeah, so you can have some fun out there with it. Banking and yanking on it is pretty good. I mean, you can get it to come around pretty quick, but be careful because it will stall on you in a too sharp of a turn. I will say too that the airplane itself is a pretty good platform for just flying around and checking out the scenery because of the glass cockpit, greenhouse glass roof, and the fact that you can really slow this plane down and enjoy the scenery. And if you're not into a whole bunch of noise, you won't get it from this plane. The engine noise is very mild. There's not too many other noises that come with it. I noticed that whether you have the hatch, or the cockpit canopy open or closed, doesn't make much difference. It's about the same. So, and coming in for the approach, you'll see that like I said, you want to make sure that your gear comes down pretty equal. And once you get the main wheels down, just drop that tail skid on the ground, and she'll really stay in track for you. So, and of course, I want to say kudos to the young lady who this plane was dedicated to from the makers for Flight Sim, Helene Boucher. She was the female pilot that flew this particular plane, and she died in this particular plane. This number and identifier on the plane. She came, I think it was a on final type accident, but I saw real pictures of the plane after the crash. It was bad, but again, these planes were made out of wood and a little bit of metal, but when they hit hard, they just explode. So, but kudos to her and to all the women pilots out there who were flying back in those early days, my God, and to all the current female pilots that are flying today. Got to keep the history going, pass this history around to the younger kids, and keep them interested in aviation. So, all right, that's enough from me. I enjoyed talking about this plane. I really like it, and believe me, it's not very expensive. You can afford it. All right, I'll talk to y'all later.